Hi, my name's Josh and I'm a guitar tutor for South Lanarkshire Leisure and Culture, and today we're going to be learning Yesterday by the Beatles. So to start off, I'll just play through the first part of the song that we're going to learn. That sounds like this. Okay, so that's the first half, and we'll start there. So you'll have noticed the rhythm for this song's all quite similar. It's got a rhythm that's starting with the bass note and then 3 in the higher notes for most of the song anyway. So we're going to finger pick this rather than strumming it. So what we're going to do is we're going to use our thumb for the lower strings, the bass strings, and then we're going to use our first, second, and third finger of our right hand, and we're going to use them to pluck the bottom 3 strings, because that's the strings that we use for most of it. So it starts off in a G chord. Most of the song is actually chord shapes as well, which makes it fairly easy, but there's a few variations of chord shapes that are a bit unusual, which is the trickiest part of it, but the rhythm's the same throughout. So we'll start off with the G. So instead of just like a normal open G though, it's a G with both your pinky and your third finger on the bottom and the third fret. So it's an open G, but it's the second variation of a G. So we're going to play that, and then you're going to play the low G note on the E string, and then you're just going to pluck the bottom 3 strings. Okay, so that's a rhythm that gets repeated for 2 bars. So that actually gets repeated 4 times. So it sounds like this. Okay, so that's your intro, just all in the G. And then it continues on. The next bar, the actual beginning of the verse, is also in the G. So you go, but this time, instead of hitting 3 of the higher strings, you're going to hit the low note like before, then 2, and then you're going to take off your third finger and you're going to play just the open E. Okay, so the second half of that bar is a G. G again, but twice on those strings, and then an open E. Okay, so from the first bar of the verse, you've got taking your finger off for that open E. Then it goes to like a F minor shape. If you remember, that's like a bar shape on the 2nd fret. But for this song, we don't actually need to use this section of it, so we're just going to actually bar the whole 2nd fret, because they're the only notes we play. We only play the low E string and the 3 high strings. So open E, and then we're going to bar this 2nd fret, and it's the same rhythm. You're going to play the low E string, and then you're going to pick the bottom 3 strings 3 times like that. So 2nd fret on the E string, and then the bottom 3 strings 3 times. And then it switches to the next chord. It's a variation of a B7, which usually looks like that, but this time, because it's got a wee movement in the chord, we're actually going to play it slightly differently than you'd normally play it. And we're going to put our first finger on the 2nd fret of the A string, then you'll miss a string, you'll put your 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the G string. After you play the open E string, you're going to then play a F minor chord. Now, the F minor chord normally is a bar chord using your first finger, your third and fourth fingers, but for this song, since we're only using the low E strings, the low E string at the moment, and the free high strings, we don't actually need these two fingers because we don't play those strings. So you're going to just bar the whole second fret with your first finger, and then it's the same rhythm again as you did in the G, playing the low E note and then the free high strings like that, just barring down the second fret. Okay, then after that the next chord is a B7, or a variation of a B7. A B7 normally looks like this and sounds like this, but because at the very end of it there's a wee note variation, we're going to play it slightly differently to make it easier. We're going to put our first finger on the second fret of the A string, and then we're going to miss a string, and we're going to put our second finger on the second fret of the G string, miss a string again, and then our third finger is going to go on the second fret of the high E string. So each of your fingers are on the second fret with missing a string in between each one. And it's the same rhythm, but this time starting on the A string with your thumb. And then we're going to play the same pattern, but for the first two picks it's just the bottom three strings. But for the very last strum, we're going to add our pinky onto the third fret of the high E. Okay, so what we get is, so that's where the variation comes in. So that's why we're fingering it like this. So you're going to play the A string with your thumb, then strum twice, and then add your pinky onto the third fret and strum it again. Okay, so from the beginning of the verse we've got the G, open E into this F minor shape, into the B7, add the pinky. Okay, then the next part goes into E minor, just a standard E minor chord, and it's the same rhythm. First of all though, instead of picking the low E, we're going to pick the E on the D string, so your second fret of the D string, going to play that with your thumb, and then strum down 3 times, or pick 3 times even, and then you're going to go back to the D string, play that, pick the high 3 strings again, and then you're going to take your hand off the chord shape and just play an open D, and then pick the high 3 strings. Okay, so you've got E there, the E minor shape, second fret in the D, pick 3 times in the higher strings, second fret in the D again, pick the higher strings, take your hand off the chord shape, open D, and then pick the higher strings. And then that takes us on to the next bar, which is just a C chord, just your standard open C, and you're going to play that just the C, you're going to play the A string with your thumb, and then just the same rhythm again. So A string with your thumb, and then just strumming or picking the bottom 3 strings 3 times. And then you go to a D7 chord, which is like a backwards D. Second finger on the G string, first finger on the first fret of the B string, and then second finger on the second fret of the E string. You're going to pick the D note, the D string, and then just pick the bottom 3 strings 3 times. So you've got your C, and then your D7. Okay? So from the E minor, it sounds like this. Okay, next part is just going back to the G, but this G here, it's the same picking pattern almost, but we're going to do like a wee rundown. So it's going to go G, F sharp to E minor. Okay, So starting in the G, just the normal picking pattern, low E, strum the 3 strings, and then low E again as normal, strum the 3 strings. Then we're going to take our second finger off of the E string, and we're going to put our first finger on the 2nd fret of the E string, the F sharp note. We're going to pick that, and then the 3 bottom strings again, and then we're going to keeping for this whole part, keeping these 2 fingers here. We're then going to make an E minor shape. So it's like, with those 2 fingers there, it makes an E minor 7, and we're going to just pick open E, and then instead of the bottom 3 this time, we're going to do the B, the G, and the D string. So, and you're going to play that twice back to the E. Okay, so it's the G, G again, F sharp, still with those fingers there, and then E minor 7, play the D, the B, and the G string. You're going to play them twice, back to the open E, and then this time we go to an A chord, and this goes back to strumming the bottom 3 strings. Okay, so it'll be A, bottom 3 twice, and then A again. So that whole section sounds like this. Okay, so you're doing the run, the G, F sharp, E minor 7, the whole time keeping those 2 fingers there, and then it just goes to a normal A chord, with the rhythm being low A, 3 high strings, low A again. And then the last bar to finish this section off just goes C, like a normal open C. You're picking the 3 higher strings and the A string at the same time. Let that ring out for a beat, and then you just go back to the G. Okay, and this time you're just picking that 5 times in this rhythm. Okay, so C, and then the G, like that. And that will be section 1. So that finishes that section of the song off. Just practice that as many times as you can until you can put all the chords together. This section actually comes up in the song a few times. Once you get to that G, you repeat from the beginning of the verse. So you play the C, and then you just go back to the beginning of the verse there. Okay, so just practice that as many times as you can, and then once you're able to do that, you're ready to move on to the next part. Okay, so yeah, just practice that part as many times as you can, and once you've got that down, you'll be ready to move on to the next section. So the next section, which is sort of the chorus of the song, starts with the B7 shape again, the one so where it's your first finger on the 2nd fret of the A, where you miss a string, your 2nd finger goes on the 2nd string of the G, and then you miss a string and your 3rd finger goes on the 2nd fret of the high E. So that's the shape we're going to use this time. But for the first 3 picks of the higher strings, we're going to start with our 3rd finger off, so it's just going to be the open E string. So we'll have 1st finger on the 2nd fret of the A and your 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the G. We're going to pick that same rhythm as before. This section's the same rhythm as the verse. So it's going to be thumb picking the A string and then the 3 high strings. And then you're going to pick the A string again with your thumb, but this time you're going to add on your 3rd finger to the high E to complete the B7 chord, and you're just going to pick the high strings 3 times. Okay, so the first repeat has your 3rd finger off, and then you add it back on. Okay, so the next verse, for the first time, the rhythm really changes, and it's just like a full beat pattern. So it's going to start, and also it's like a moving. It's not really chord shapes. It's double stops throughout the whole thing. So the first shape is just second finger on the D string and an open high E string. So you're going to play those two notes together, and then you're going to play the same two strings, but this time you're going to take your middle finger off and you're going to put your third finger on the high E string in the second fret. Just play that once, both of them together, and then you're going to move to the third fret. So your third finger is going to go in the high E string in the third fret, and your middle finger is going to go in the C note, so the third fret and the A string. So you're going to play the A and the high E together, and then you're going to hold that shape and just slide your fingers back a fret, both of them, to the second fret, and play the same two strings together. Take your third finger off and just play the high E. Okay, so what you get is, so starting off, it's middle finger on the second fret of the D with an open E string, and then open D with the second finger on the E string, with the second fret of the E string, and then it's the third fret in the A and the third fret in the E, and then it's the second fret in the A and the second fret in the E, keeping your middle finger where it is, but taking your third finger off the high E, and then you're just strumming that once. Then it goes into a D7 shape. Well, the first shape is actually an A minor 6, but it's just a D7 shape, the one we did earlier. But to start it off, we're going to pick the open A, and then we're going to pick the 3 high strings. And then the second repeat, it's the open D this time, and then the 3 high strings. Okay, so D7 shape, open A for the first one, and then 3 picks, and then open D, 3 picks, and then it goes back to a G. Okay, same rhythm as before for the first repeat. Then the second repeat, low G note, and then 2 strums this time, and then you just take your finger off and play an open E. Okay, and then it just starts that section again. It just repeats the same thing again. So it will go back to the sort of B7 shape, and then just plays through all the chords. So that whole section together sounds like this. We're just going to end it by picking the G, and that's the end of the song. So that bit's nice and simple. It's just 2 repeats of the same pattern, starting with the B7 shape with your third finger off, then into the wee run to the D7 with the bass note as A first, then the D, and then it just goes back to your G, and then the open bass note repeats those chords again. So the B7 into the run, into the D7 with the open A, D7, back to a G just to finish it off. And that's Yesterday by the Beatles.